All right, so we're diving into this Hurricane Milton situation.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's understandable why anyone would want to be informed, not overwhelmed with, a potential once-in-a-century hurricane barreling down on Tampa Bay.
It's definitely a nail-biter, and the fact that Tampa Bay hasn't seen a direct hit from a hurricane this strong in over a century just adds to the tension.
Exactly. 1921, can you believe that? The last time they dealt with anything even remotely. Imagine the changes since then. Just the population growth alone is insane.
Right, which is a major factor in why this Hurricane Milton situation is so concerning. Over 3 million people potentially in harm's way.
It's mind-boggling.
It's crucial to stay informed, like you said, not overwhelmed. So let's break down why Tampa Bay is particularly vulnerable. And it goes beyond just the population increase since 1921.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking about that. What else makes it so susceptible?
Well, the geography of the bay itself is a major factor. The shape of the bay and the shallow waters actually act like a funnel for the hurricane surge, making the impact even worse.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
And then on top of that, you've got decades of development along the coastline.
Right, right.
It's a recipe for a potentially catastrophic situation.
It's a perfect storm, so to speak.
Exactly.
And, we know Milton has weakened a bit, thankfully down to a Category 4 from a Category 5.
Yeah.
But it's still incredibly dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
This isn't just some, abstract weather event.
Yeah.
This is about real people's lives being turned upside down. Like the article mentions a couple, John and his wife, who were stuck at the Tampa airport.
Oh, no.
Can you imagine? They just finished a relaxing cruise. They're ready to head home. And bam, Hurricane Milton throws a wrench in their plans.
Wow.
Everything's booked solid. They're scrambling to find a way out. It's just...
That must be so stressful.
The stress must be unbelievable. And it really highlights how these storms, they have these ripple effects that disrupt lives far beyond just the immediate impact zone.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then there are the people in Fort Myers Beach who are still recovering from Hurricane Ian just 2 years ago. Can you imagine going through that, picking up the pieces, rebuilding your life, and then bam, another major hurricane?
Right. It's like they haven't even had a chance to catch their breath.
It's heartbreaking. And it makes you wonder, with these repeated warnings, do people start to tune them out? Is there a sense of cry wolf fatigue setting in?
Yeah. That's a real phenomenon.
Really?
Yeah, when people hear repeated warnings, especially if those warnings don't fully materialize in their immediate experience, it can lead to a decreased sense of urgency in the face of future threats.
That makes sense, but it's still a risky game to play, especially with a storm like Milton on the horizon.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the people who are choosing to stay put, the ones who are riding out the storm. What's going through their minds? What factors are they weighing? I mean, the article mentions this one resident, Ralph Douglas. He's worried about running out of gas if he tries to evacuate and then, not being able to get back home afterward if he can't get gas.
Right. That's a huge concern for people, and it just highlights the really tough decisions they're facing.
Exactly.
It's easy for us to sit here and say, just evacuate.
Right.
But it's obviously not that simple for everyone.
Of course, they have to weigh the risks.
Right.
Staying versus leaving,
Absolutely.
It's a tough one. And then there's the whole issue of debris left behind by Hurricane Helene.
Oh, right.
That part of the article really got me thinking, because it's not just the wind and rain from Milton itself, but the danger of that debris turning into projectiles in those high winds.
Yeah.
They quoted a contractor, Nick Sabo, and the way he described it, it sent chills down my spine. He said it's like spears flying through the air.
It's a chilling but accurate analogy.
Yeah.
A stray piece of plywood, something we don't even think about, caught in those hurricane force winds.
Right.
It can become a deadly missile.
It's terrifying. And that's got to be why the authorities are in this race against time to clear out as much of that debris as possible before Milton hits.
Exactly. That preparation time is absolutely crucial.
So what are they doing? I mean, are they just sending out guys with rakes?
Well, the article did mention that Governor DeSantis has deployed over 300 dump trucks.
Wow. 300?
Yeah, working around the clock to clear the debris.
Around the clock. Wow.
And get this, they've already removed over 1,200 loads of debris.
That's incredible. Can you imagine the logistics involved in coordinating something like that?
It's a massive undertaking for sure.
It really shows how seriously they're taking this threat.
Absolutely. I mean, removing that debris beforehand, it drastically reduces the risk of those objects becoming airborne and causing injury or damage.
It's like they're trying to disarm the hurricane before it even arrives.
Exactly.
That's one way to look at it. And it's not just a local effort either, right? We're talking about a massive coordinated response here on a national level.
Right. I mean, you've got Tampa Bay issuing evacuation orders for vulnerable areas,
Right.
which seems like a given.
Yeah.
But then you've got 7,000 federal workers being deployed.
7,000. That's a lot of people.
That's huge.
That really speaks to the seriousness of this storm, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When a hurricane like Milton threatens a densely populated area like Tampa Bay, it triggers this huge cascade of responses.
It's all hands on deck.
Exactly. You've got local authorities, state agencies, even the federal government all have to work together to prepare for and respond to this crisis.
So these emergency declarations we always hear about, those aren't just words, are they?
No, not at all. They unlock resources, personnel, funding from FEMA and other agencies.
Okay, so it's like a well-oiled machine, hopefully springing into action.
Well, ideally, yes, the goal is to have a coordinated and effective response, to protect lives and property.
Right, of course.
But, there are always challenges, and there are always lessons learned from each hurricane. And I think it's important to remember that the article did mention that some residents felt let down by the response after Hurricane Ian.
Oh, right. Some people felt like the warnings were overblown and they evacuated for nothing.
Yeah, and unfortunately, those kinds of experiences can lead to distrust and a reluctance to heed future warnings.
That makes sense, but it also makes it even harder to get people to take these warnings seriously the next time around.
It's a delicate balance, trying
Yeah.
to ensure public safety while also maintaining public trust.
It really makes you realize how much goes on behind the scenes during these events. And it's easy to forget that. We just see this storm on the news, but there's so much more to it.
Absolutely.
And speaking of a bigger picture, this isn't just a Tampa Bay story, is it?
No, not at all.
I mean, the article mentioned that Milton is projected to cut across central Florida and then head out into the Atlantic.
Right.
So that means heavy rainfall for a much wider area, potentially even beyond Florida.
Exactly. And, we often focus on the immediate impact zone.
Right, where the hurricane makes landfall.
Right. But the effects of a hurricane, especially one as powerful as Milton, can be far-reaching.
Yeah, they even issued a tropical storm watch for the northwestern Bahamas.
Right.
Like this thing's casting a shadow over the entire region.
It really highlights why staying informed is so important, even if you're not right in the path of the hurricane itself.
Right.
The ripple effects, the rainfall, potential flooding, even the economic impacts. They can all be felt far and wide.
It's true. It really makes you appreciate just how interconnected everything is.
Absolutely.
And not just the geography, but the people, too.
Yeah.
Reading about John and his wife stuck at the airport.
Right.
Or those folks in Fort Myers Beach bracing for another hit. It really hits home.
It does. It reminds us that these are real people's lives.
It really does. And it makes you wonder, what would you do in their shoes?
Yeah.
If you were facing that kind of uncertainty, what would be your top priority?
It's a question we all hope we never have to answer for real.
Yeah.
But it's definitely one worth thinking about.
What would you grab if you had to evacuate? And I don't just mean material possessions.
Right. It goes beyond that.
It makes you think about what really matters most.
Exactly. And sometimes it takes something like this, a hurricane bearing down on you, to put things in perspective.
That's very true. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day, and then something like Hurricane Milton comes along and reminds you what's really important.
It's a powerful force, nature.
It is, and we can't control it, but we can control how we prepare for it and how we respond to it.
Absolutely.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive into this Hurricane Milton situation.
Yeah, it has.
Eye-opening, really,
Yeah.
A real reminder that we need to stay informed, stay prepared, and maybe take a moment to think about what truly matters most to us.
Well said.
Stay safe, everyone.